CNN International.
A relief worker in Rwanda comforts a hungry. The family of a Russian mobster mourns. Begins their new life. Every headline, their story touch people. Those beyond breaking news. Our reporting breaks with timely specials, weekly documentaries, in-depth reports, taking you inside the secrets of the slave trade, exploring racism around the world, tracking men. CNN International puts today's news in perspective. You need to understand. No one covers a story like the people who cover your world. CNN International.
Is it hot? It's hotter than Miami. At least
it's too hot. I'm sweating like a pig, man.
Mad dogs and Englishmen aside, not many folks enjoy being outside in this record-breaking heat.
Getting out alive was against the odds for this South Korean teen, but today rescue workers heard her moans.
And in Bosnia, thousands word on whether their loved ones did get out alive after the latest Serb assault on a Muslim enclave. Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Christie in for Joe Oliver at CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Jean Meserve in Washington. Welcome to The World Today.
In the news, Bosnian Serbs have freed 55 Dutch UN peacekeepers captured during this week's Serb takeover enclave of Srebrenica. The peacekeepers were taken across the Bosnian border into Yugoslavia on Saturday. The Dutch soldiers had been assigned to protect Srebrenica, one of several UN-designated safe areas in eastern Bosnia. Meanwhile, Bosnian Serb forces are also threatening the enclave of Žepa. An attack is likely to add more refugees to thousands who have poured into the town of Tuzla. CNN's Jim Clancy has more.
No matter where you turn, what face you see, the question that arises among the mass of refugees now in Tuzla is this: where are men? We want to know what happened to our husbands, this woman pleaded. Like thousands of others, she fears for the safety of every male taken hostage by the Serbs, including boys as young as 12. United Nations officials say as many as 20,000 people may still be missing after the lightning-swift ethnic cleansing of Srebrenica. While they search for answers, these victims wait in fear of the war. More than 5,000 of the refugees have taken shelter at this UN airbase in Tuzla. Aid workers have erected tents, distributed food and water, and tried to provide for emergency care. But the people in this camp have lost faith. No, we have no confidence in the United Nations or anyone else, these women told us. Said this woman, the UN was still telling us no one will touch you just before rebel Serbs came to our homes, kicked us out, and herded us onto trucks and buses. The busloads of refugees from Srebrenica are still coming. Many people are weak, hungry, and suffering from the extreme heat. While the UN tries to identify and register every refugee and hopefully reunite them with their families, many are clearly beyond consolation. They've lost everything. For them, it's over. For thousands of the refugees here, the situation has changed, but only barely for the better. Uncertainty and fear about the fate of fathers, sons, brothers continues to be foremost in their mind, and few, if any, dare to think about their future. Jim Clancy, CNN Tuzla.
They have finished picking the jury and alternates to hear the Susan Smith murder trial. Smith is the South Carolina woman accused of drowning her 2 young sons. CNN's Sean Calebs is in Union, South Carolina. Latest on the proceedings. Sean?
Thanks very much. Indeed, 9 men and 3 women will now make up the jury. There are only 2 alternates, a man and a woman. Initially, Judge William Howard had said he wanted 6 alternates, but in the end settled for just 2. Now, the trial is scheduled to start here in Union Monday at 10 a.m. But first, the judge says he must hear two motions concerning statements that Susan Smith has made in the past. Now, you'll remember during the 9 days that she said her children were missing, she publicly pleaded for their safe return. Also, once she confessed to the crime, she gave a written statement to the sheriff here in Union County, as well as to the state's law enforcement division. So both those issues must be decided before opening statements begin. Now, court began here today with the defense still simmering from a controversy from Friday. South Carolina's Attorney General thrust himself into the Smith trial. Court began Saturday with Judge William Howard hearing from Smith's attorney, David Bruck.
What?
Bruck was stunned Saturday after learning South Carolina's Attorney General was accusing him of trying to manipulate the media and trying the case in public by pushing a plea bargain agreement that would keep Susan Smith from receiving the death penalty. Bruck says Attorney General Charlie Condon's comments are unfair and inflammatory. A leading South Carolina defense attorney agrees with Bruck, saying it represents a double standard.
You get on about paragraphs about plea bargains themselves, but when the defendant does it, it's unfair.
South Carolina's Attorney General is an adamant supporter of the death penalty. Condon maintains Bruck could enter a guilty plea for Smith and let the judge decide if she should live or die. In his words, he does not want South Carolina to become another circus modeled after the O.J. Simpson trial. Attorney Jack Swerling says the Attorney General has no business getting involved in the case.
Well, a prosecutor should not make a public statement calling on a defendant to enter a guilty plea and save the state any kind of money. This is an exercise of a defendant's right to a jury trial, and prosecutors just do not get into that fray and do not make those kind of statements.
Now, Bruck has raised the possibility of a mistrial, although he insists he is not pushing for one. Still, Smith's lawyer remains frustrated that South Carolina's leading law enforcement officer would publicly urge Susan Smith to give up her right to a trial by jury. I'm Sean Calebs reporting live from Union, South Carolina.
Sean, this is a weekend. Will the jury be working every Saturday?
Indeed, people have been trying to draw parallels to this in the O.J. Simpson case on the West Coast, but the judge is making it clear that that no parallel can really be drawn. He's a really no-nonsense kind of judge. When the lawyers start going on, asking the same question 2 or 3 times, he cuts them off and tells them to move on. And all along, Judge William Howard has said he wants this trial to be over, so he's going to be going 6 days a week, and usually a trial runs past 7 p.m. Eastern time here. So you can bet that he's going to go through Saturday. He's even raised the possibility of going Sunday, although no one's really counting on that at this point.
Sean Calebs in Union, South Carolina. Thanks for joining us. Brian?
Well, the heat wave of 95 proving to be more than uncomfortable. It is deadly as well. In Chicago, at least 24 deaths since Friday are blamed on soaring temperatures. 15 people suffered heat-related deaths in Milwaukee. And in Boston, the mercury hit 100 degrees for the first time in nearly 18 years. Joining us now from New York with more, CNN's Brian Jenkins. Brian?
Well, Brian, the temperature peaked here in Manhattan at 102 degrees this afternoon, breaking the record for this date set in 1983 of 98 degrees. Experts say with the humidity, it felt more like 114 degrees, but over 100, who can really tell? We have been fortunate in 3 ways. Number 1, there have been no fatalities reported from the heat today in New York City. Number 2, we have had no widespread power outages because this is a weekend day and electric use is down from business days. Number 3, we've had it pretty good so far this summer in New York City. It's been relatively cool. This has been the first day over 100 degrees. In fact, last weekend was quite cool. So we're making up now for the good luck that we've had before, and the top priority for most everyone here today has been finding a place, as they say, to chill. For thousands of New Yorkers, a city pool was the only place to be. Some chose to stand in the sprinklers, and it wasn't always enough to prevent delirium.
It's the 3 H's. It's hot, humid, and whatever's the other ones.
Maybe he should have paid a visit to the Bronx Zoo to see how the experts chill out. Of course, seeing cool does not guarantee being cool.
It's like sitting inside the oven.
That's why so many people headed to freezers for popsicles, to fountains for a quick rinse, and to service stations for a new radiator. The Big Apple wasn't alone in being baked. In Buffalo, they could have broiled their famous chicken wings on the asphalt. But with the temperature topping out below 100, it would have felt downright breezy to folks in Philadelphia, where the mercury hit at least 103. The police helped out handing out donated electric fans to any senior citizen who wanted one. In Washington, the heat didn't keep sightseers from coming out, but when the temperature inside the Washington Monument soared past 90, the Park Service closed it for the third day in a row. Meanwhile, some kids in the district kept cool in a backyard pool. Others frolicked in front of fire hydrants, a form of relief that makes fire officials fret about low pressure if water is needed to fight flames. It may have felt as if Atlanta was burning again with temperatures around 100, but most Atlantans handled the heat in laid-back Southern style.
As long as we're under some shade, I think we'll survive it.
Eating light helps too, as does drinking plenty of water. Not everyone, though, is willing to heed such advice. Back in New York, poop fanatics in Greenwich Village ignored admonitions from health officials not to work up a sweat. By mid-afternoon, the city ambulance service was taking 200 heat-related calls per hour, pushing total calls 20% above normal. Some out-of-towners tried to beat the heat by heading out on ferry boats in New York Harbor to see the Statue of Liberty. But this lady faced up to the brutal reality.
Hell, I'm sweating like a pig, man.
Who could help sweating on a day when the sun beat down hotter in the Big Apple, according to record books, than on any previous 15th of July? The good news now is that the mercury has dropped back below 100 degrees. We're at about 99 degrees last time we were able to check. And the best news is that this heat cell will be moving out over the Atlantic tonight, and by tomorrow, cooling breezes will drop the temperature by about 15 degrees. For now, Brian Shankin, CNN, reporting live from New York City.
For more on when the East will see some relief, here's Ted Texter. Ted.
Not only in New York, Gene, but farther north there will be some relief. Here is the dividing line. This is where we project the front to be in the morning time on Sunday. Through parts of the mid-Atlantic states northward, much cooler, a little bit drier air, so a lot of relief. Remember that humidity in the atmosphere, it won't allow the perspiration to evaporate as well. That's the only way we really have naturally to cool down. So jump in some water if you have to, find something cool. Farther south there's still heat, but north and west, the chill is on, the relative chill anyway, across the upper Midwest. And look now into New England. In Boston, about 80, 82 degrees. New York City still could be a little bit toasty, but overall, much better weather. And we will have even more weather information coming up for you in just a little bit. Gene, Brian?
Ted, thanks. The World Today will continue in just a moment.
Yeah, we'll tell you a story about a person who was found underneath the demolished building in South Korea. All this time later.
And it's all-out war to save a military base in California from furry little animals that eat everything in sight.
Information is essential for the international traveler. Make certain you choose a CNN partner hotel next time you travel. For more information about these and other CNN partner hotels, turn to page 300 on CNN Text where available.
to find a way to end war.
50 years ago, the UN Charter pledged to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. But today, the UN still grapples with wars, human rights, and the threat of nuclear arms. Will it ever accomplish its original goal? Each weekend, CNN's Richard Roth probes the inner workings of the UN with intriguing debates on location reports and engaging interviews on the world's peacekeeper. Diplomatic License, Sunday on CNN International.
Doctors examining a 19-year-old girl who spent 16 days in the rubble of a South Korean department store say they can't see how she survived the ordeal. CNN's Soon Ji-hae has more.
Rescue workers on Saturday freed a 19-year-old woman from the rubble 16 days after a department store collapsed. Park Seung-hyun, a saleswoman in the children's corner, was taken from the small compartment where she was trapped to a waiting ambulance. She was reportedly the 36th person to be rescued alive from the debris. The young woman's head was wrapped in a towel to prevent her from being blinded by the outside light. Rescuers said the young woman also asked to be covered from head to toe because she had taken all her clothes off under the rubble. At nearby St. Mary's Hospital, where the young woman was taken, one doctor said she was dehydrated but otherwise in fair condition. He said she first asked for water and then wanted to know what day it was. The young woman reportedly had only minor cuts and bruises and was expected to make a normal recovery. She told doctors she had nothing to eat or drink for the past 16 days, not even rainwater. The survivor's father was rushed to the hospital to be at her side. One of her first visitors was Yoo Ji-hwan, who had been rescued from the wreckage site only 4 days ago. A forklift operator at the wreckage site first heard her voice while he was clearing away a concrete slab. Within an hour, she was rescued.
Doctors say a healthy person could survive for up to a month with little water. With this and the recent survivors, the families of the hundreds still missing are hoping that it will be their relatives next that the rescue workers dig up alive. Soon Ji-hae, CNN, Seoul.
Rodney King, the man whose arrest touched off the Los Angeles riots in 1992, was back in handcuffs overnight. King was picked up by police after he allegedly knocked a woman down with his car. The victim is believed to be his wife. King was booked on 2 felony counts and released today on bail. A Canadian Airlines jet carrying 95 people was forced to make an emergency landing shortly after takeoff today in Fort Lauderdale. 3 people suffered minor injuries during the evacuation. The pilot turned the plane around after receiving an alert of a possible cargo fire, but no fire or smoke was found.
Well, for 3 days, the talk has been presidential politics at a Republican National Committee meeting in Philadelphia. Many would-be nominees warned that President Clinton won't be a pushover in next year's election. Some of them also took verbal potshots at GOP frontrunner Bob Dole. Senator Phil Gramm says Dole's welfare reform plan doesn't cut it. Former Tennessee Governor Lamar Alexander made an indirect reference to Senator Dole's age, which Dole did not let pass.
This is not a campaign about hot buttons, or about whom we don't like, or what we're against, or about the presidency of Washington, D.C., or even a thank you for a long-serving senator. It is a campaign about the future of this country. It comes as a time when we're electing a president in 1996 who will be the president of the United States in the year 2000, literally the first president of the next century.
Lamar Alexander, he's saying what he thinks he should say. I'm in good health. I'm in good shape. I'm ready to go. I'll, let him make the charge, but I don't think it would stick.
And next Saturday is your birthday. You're going to be 72 years old. So if you are elected, you'll be the oldest sitting president, right? At taking office.
But we're living longer. Unless you go back 10, 20, 30 years, our life expectancy has certainly grown as it has. And it ought to be an inspiration to a lot of people. The fact that somebody can be as active and as much stamina as I have at this age. And every time I look at Strom Thurmond, I feel like a child.
And you can see more of Wolf Blitzer's interview with Senator Dole on Inside Politics Weekend, coming up at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
And coming up next on The World Today, names for a popular set of twins at the Bronx Zoo.
When stress takes its toll, wouldn't it be great to have your very own personal masseuse to soothe and relieve tension? When routine jobs become painful, wouldn't it be great to call on a shiatsu massage therapist to melt away sore, aching muscles? Theraflex presents the Pro Shiatsu Personal Massager. Unlike vibrating massagers that only rub the surface, Pro Shiatsu simulates the kneading action of a real masseuse, sending penetrating waves of energy to relieve pain, stress, and sore muscles. It's easy to use. Simply apply Pro Shiatsu wherever you need it. Anytime, anywhere. It never gets tired. Pro Shiatsu Deep Soothing Massage actually gets right to the pressure points, providing instant relief. Pamper aching feet with a soothing and relaxing massage. It works miracles on the lower back and improves circulation on calves and thighs. Pro Shiatsu Massager is portable and lightweight. Imagine getting a relaxing massage at the office while you work. Or take it along when you work out for deep muscle relief. Use instant reverse to send waves upwards to the neck and shoulders or downwards through the whole body. There's nothing that soothes, relaxes, and relieves aches and pains like the Pro Shiatsu Massager. Now you can enjoy the luxury of a massage in the comfort and privacy of your own home at a price you can afford. A professional masseuse can charge up to $50 per hour, and catalogs have advertised similar units for as much as $200. Now you can order the Pro Shiatsu Massager at the special price. Don't delay. Order now.
Now available around the world from Interwood. To order and for information on how to pay in your own currency, call the local number on your screen now. This special television offer from Interwood Marketing is available for a limited time only, so don't delay. You can order in all these countries, so please call now. Operators are standing by to take your order. If lines are busy, please call later, but do call. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. Local operators are waiting to hear from you. Call now and take advantage of this limited special offer. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. Call now.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Discovery took some time out today from their orbital duties to make a very long-distance phone call to a veterans hospital. The Space Shuttle skipper called 72-year-old Harlan Clausen in his hospital bed.
I say, I'm glad I don't have to pay for this call. I'm glad the call refers to you.
Well, I'm glad I'm not paying for it either. And we're very fortunate to live in a country that was free enough to have the ability to conduct operations like this, and we owe a lot of that credit to you and your friends who fought in World War II. Without your efforts, this program wouldn't exist, and we wouldn't be making this phone call.
The shuttle has accomplished its primary goal of deploying a massive communications satellite. It is on an 8-day mission.
Well, everybody's talking about how hot it is. Well, in many parts of the country, the weather varies. And also, there's a tropical storm lurking in the Atlantic. Ted Texter's here to update us. Ted?
So we're having a busy weekend. Tropical Storm Chantal. Here it is in the Atlantic, as you mentioned. Storm gaining some intensity through this day. You can see Florida just to the west. The storm system continues moving at the west-northwesterly direction at about 8 miles an hour. Wind speeds now estimated at about 50 miles an hour. And at that pace and moving to the west, it could bring it into the mainland within the next couple of days. We will watch it. At the same time, across the continental 48, down into Mexico, up into Canada, there's still a lot going on. With the heat, the humidity, there's thunderstorm activity. In fact, it is at least close to or over the severe threat, the potential, right now across parts of the Ohio River Valley, the Midwestern United States, back into the Missouri, the Mississippi River valleys, and now even through parts of the north and the east. The watch box are plotted for you. They take us into the afternoon and evening hours. Some heavy weather is a possibility down through the Gulf Coast region too. And as we go right on into Sunday morning, we see again that front sliding a little bit farther south through Ohio, Pennsylvania. You will be cooler there overall. Great Lakes region, chill, relative chill anyway. And up across the Dakotas, still very fine weather expected. Showers and thunderstorms also in the near future. Down through the Gulf Coast region into Mexico, more showers of rain expected. Overall, the temperatures look like this. Still 90s through, for perhaps about the Pittsburgh area into Indianapolis, farther south into the Gulf. It looks like we'll see more rain showers, and then Sunday evening, rain again once spread about most of the Great Lakes region. It will be moving to the east, but very, very slowly. That is Look at Your Weather Forecast. Brian?
Thank you very much, Ted. We're going to take a break. When the World Today continues, call them cute if you like, but they're still rodents, and they're a big security threat at a California military base. We'll tell you about it when we come back.
A 5-year-old Brooklyn girl has won a naming contest for twin baby gorillas at the Bronx Zoo. Little Caitlin Quinn, with some help from mom, came up with the Swahili names Ngoma and Tombo for the twin gorillas born last year. They are only the 6th set of gorillas born in captivity.
Well, there is controversy surrounding a California military base, but the issue isn't whether to close it permanently or just keep it open.
It seems this base is being overrun by a formidable enemy. CNN's Susan Reed explains.
One of the U.S. military's most important weapons bases is under attack. They've engaged the enemy, and it's furry. That's right, an army of ground squirrels, 30,000 of them, is overrunning the Naval Weapons Station Concord.
These days you can go into my front office door and find 5 squirrels sitting out there looking at you as you enter the office area.
They burrow on the ground. They're just like cute rats with shorter tails.
Cute, but they're wreaking havoc on the infrastructure, digging and chewing up everything in sight, causing power outages, gnawed telephone cables, weakened road beds, weakened railroad tracks. If they're not stopped, damage could hit $7 million.
And the swing wall could collapse and come over.
And there's an even bigger threat to the weapons stored on the base.
The burrowing into the earthen overburden over the top of those concrete and steel structures weakens that earth cover and reduces the amount of cover that's available to retard a blast effect if an accidental explosion were to occur.
Over 300 magazines on the base store a broad range of missiles, bombs, and bullets. Nuclear weapons could be here too, but the Navy never confirms that.
The squirrels infest 13,000 acres of the base, and the military wants to put poison on 3,000 of those acres to get rid of the squirrels.
They did it 5 years ago, and it worked like a charm. But fearing a lawsuit, they're waiting for the results of an impact study. Environmentalists are looking for a way to sue. They say ground cover would stop the burrowing, a better solution than poison.
The poison causes a extremely painful death. It causes internal bleeding, and it takes up to 2 weeks for the animals, the mammals and the birds to die.
Bonadillo also worries about other animals being poisoned.
There's approximately 20 endangered and threatened species on the endangered species list that are in the area.
In the areas where we do have endangered or threatened species, we wouldn't use poison.
It's a difficult problem, an enemy the Navy is not used to fighting. Susan Reed, CNN, Concord, California.
And that wraps up this edition of The World Today. I'm Jean Meserve in Washington.
And I'm Brian Christie at the CNN Center in Atlanta.
Celebrating a decade of achievement. This is CNN International.
My philosophy is to go where the facts are, wherever they may be, on the front line, behind the front lines, and to report back what I see. When CNN was formed, I realized this would be the medium of the future for transmitting news and information. And I joined CNN because going live from any location meant that you were first, that what you saw you could share with the audience.
Are you saying we can't broadcast anymore? Are you closing us down?
The more information we get from a crisis, the better. Information is an integral ingredient in the development of mankind and world order. Live coverage and what CNN does is to assemble building blocks of facts so that public opinion and government policies can be based on those facts. And maybe the next half century we'll see greater progress to a true world order.
Hello, welcome to Diplomatic License. I'm Richard Roth. Ethnic cleansing, safe havens, close air support. Those familiar but painful phrases have returned to the international scene as the Bosnian War reached new lows this week. Who is calling the shots in Bosnia these days? It would appear to be the man who strode into Srebrenica, backed by a Bosnian Serb assault force, General Ratko Mladic. 2 years ago, Mladic and the Bosnian Serbs accepted, along with the Bosnian government, the demilitarized status of Srebrenica, one of 6 safe areas the UN Security Council said it would protect. But the Bosnian Serbs took over the safe areas of Srebrenica and Žepa. UN forces never had enough men or weapons.
How can you defend with the amount of people you have? We have limits. Yes, we are not able in that kind of a situation to deter attacks, and we're not saying we have been successful. No, we have been extremely unsuccessful in doing so.
The Security Council demanded the Bosnian Serbs withdraw from Srebrenica, even as the Serbs zeroed in on Žepa. The Council asked the UN Secretary General to use all available resources to restore the status of Srebrenica, but the military option is remote.
We believe that in spite of those aggressions, the negotiation for the time being is the only way to find a provisional solution.
Do you think this represents the biggest failure of the UN in Bosnia?
No, I don't believe it represents a failure. You have to see the glass is half full or half empty.
A difficult question to consider for 30,000 refugees forced out of Srebrenica. 4,000 men were said to be rounded up by the Bosnian Serbs. Women and children were on a forced march, creating chaos and tragedy in the swollen government-run city of Tuzla.
The Security Council again condemns the unacceptable practice of ethnic cleansing and reaffirms that those who have committed or have ordered the commission of such acts will be held individually responsible.
Peacekeepers from the Netherlands bore the brunt of the Bosnian Serb assault on the safe zone of Srebrenica. Their compound in Potocari was also overrun, and the soldiers did the best they could to handle the massive flow of refugees. To give the Dutch perspective on the situation, we welcome now Niklas Biegman, the Netherlands ambassador to the United Nations. And joining me in the questioning, Afsani Bassapour of the newspaper Le Monde.
Hello, Richard.
Ambassador, welcome. Let's get the Dutch perspective from you. Your troops were overrun there. Is it frustration, anger? What do you think about what's happening?
In point of fact, as far as our troops go, we are rather proud. They took up on instruction from UNPROFOR a blocking position, and they held out there with about 80 men and 7 or 8 armed personnel carriers against more than 1,000 Serbs advancing.
Now, did your
tanks and other
had
stuff.
your government requested that more weapons and more support come in the weeks even before the assault?
No, we didn't. First of all, because nobody ever saw this assault coming. It was a surprise to all of us.
Ambassador, the French president, as you well know, is saying and has been saying for a few days now that the UN should at least try and militarily protect the remaining safe areas. Now, your country is both part of the UNPROFOR, part of the UN force, and part of the new Rapid Reaction Force. How does your country feel about militarily defending the other safe zones and, in fact, resisting the Serbs?
When you talk about the other zones, you really talk about Gorazde and not about Žepa, which is being overrun.
Absolutely.
As far as Gorazde goes, it may not be as easy for the Serbs to overrun it as they did in Srebrenica and Žepa, because there is an important contingent of the Bosnian army which will probably try to defend the town. Apart from that, the French proposals have to be studied. We have to look exactly at the amount of military force we would have to introduce there in order to put up a credible defense.
But I mean, I'm sorry, I want to repeat my question. What the French are proposing is a change of logic. It has so far been a logic of peacekeeping. They are saying that we may have to enter war. How does your government view this proposal?
I think if there was really the will on the part of America and the UK and France to adopt a more forceful posture in Bosnia, we might consider joining them. We haven't advanced as far as that so far.
What do you think about the way the pace of things go at the UN, which I know you're well familiar with? I mean, the force was called a Rapid Reaction Force, but it's still being deployed, massing there in Bosnia. It could have been used for defense of Srebrenica, perhaps. Maybe that's why the Bosnian Serbs acted. What kind of message is this sending to the world?
I don't think there is any link with the Rapid Reaction Force, really, because it is still being deployed. The reaction may be rapid, but the deployment takes some time to get them from Netherlands, France and the like. They're not yet there. If they had been there, I'm not sure that they could have come to the aid of Srebrenica over, what is it, 30, 40 kilometers of Serbian-held territory. You might need more than that.
You've studied this issue, I know, for a long time. Is negotiation still possible, do you think, to end this? What do you think? Withdrawal? What should be done?
I think that withdrawal is a last option. It may be the option that will be adopted in the end. But as long as we can stay in Yugoslavia and do the work which UNPROFOR is supposed to do, which is largely humanitarian and helping in negotiations, it's worth staying.
Ambassador, some UN analysts I've heard the last few days have been saying that, in fact, to give up the eastern enclaves, maybe not Gorazde, but definitely Srebrenica and Žepa, might, in the long run, be in the interest of long-term stability politically. What do you think of this idea?
I don't think that's a valid idea. If you look at the map of the contact group, which is still the basis of all possible negotiations on Bosnia, then the safe areas of Gorazde, Žepa, Srebrenica all form part of that map. And if they are taken over by the Serbs, it doesn't help really to reach an agreement.
Well, they are taken over by the Serbs. What are we going to do about it?
At this stage, we can't do very much about it.
The Secretary General seems to be giving Thorvald Stoltenberg a little bit more of a portfolio. He is being sent to the region along with Mr. Akashi. Do you have full confidence in Mr. Akashi? The Bosnian government will not talk to him. A lot of people say that he misread the situation there.
We wish him luck.
Okay, I think the UN needs a lot of luck these days. Niklaus Biegman, Ambassador from the Netherlands to the United Nations, thank you very much for joining us here on Diplomatic License.
You're very welcome.
And we'll see Afsani a little bit later in the program. One could criticize the UN Security Council for results in the former Yugoslavia, but not for trying and talking. Since the conflict began, there have been 59 presidential statements, stern warnings without any teeth. And take a look at the more allegedly legally powerful. In 1991, there were 3 resolutions passed. The next year, a jump to 26, including those that accepted the entry into the UN of the breakaway states. In 1993, the year diplomatic license took to the air, 25 more resolutions from the Security Council. In 1994, there were 12 more, and so far this year, 12 also, for a grand total of 78 resolutions.
A relief worker in Rwanda comforts a hungry child. The family of a Russian mobster mourns his violent death. A couple begins their new life in a reunited Germany. Behind every headline, there are stories that touch people's lives. That's why CNN International goes beyond breaking news. Our reporting breaks new ground with timely specials, weekly documentaries, in-depth reports, taking you inside the secrets of the slave trade, exploring racism around the world, tracking mankind's deadliest diseases. CNN International puts today's news in perspective, providing the background you need to understand. No one covers a story like the people who cover your world.